listen, I want you to picture something real, not a hypothetical. A real American retiree on an ordinary summer morning. Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. Sun City, Arizona. The clock on the kitchen wall reads 7:18 a.m. Richard Miller is 72 years old, a retired postal worker, the kind of man who spent decades showing up before sunrise while most of the country was still asleep. Richard is sitting at his kitchen table with a stack of paperwork in front of him. In one hand is a faded U.S. Navy coffee mug he has owned for decades. The paint is chipped, the handle has a small crack, but he refuses to replace it. Some things mean more than money. Beside the paperwork sits a framed photograph. It shows 3 generations of men standing in the Arizona desert after a hunting trip. Richard, his father, his son. 3 generations, 1 tradition. Richard smiles every time he sees that picture because it reminds him that responsibility gets passed down, not inherited, earned. And Richard always believed he had done everything right. He renewed every permit on time. He completed every required safety course. He maintained a clean legal record. He followed every state requirement he knew about, year after year, renewal after renewal. No problems, no violations, no surprises. At least that is what he thought. Then he opened the envelope. The letter looked ordinary, official, routine, nothing alarming at first glance, but the contents stopped him cold. The notice explained that additional documentation could now be required before certain permit renewals can be processed under updated July administrative procedures. Richard read the paragraph once, then twice, then a third time. His coffee sat untouched, because the question forming in his mind was the same question many responsible firearm owners are asking right now. When did this change? Nobody had called, nobody had sent a warning months earlier. Nobody had explained what the update meant for people who had been renewing permits the exact same way for years. Richard wasn't angry, not yet. He was confused. And confusion is often where costly mistakes begin. Because when people have done something successfully for 10 years, 15 years, even 20 years, they naturally assume the process works the same way today as it did yesterday. That assumption feels reasonable. It feels safe. It feels logical. But assumptions have a way of becoming expensive when rules, procedures, or documentation requirements start moving beneath your feet. Especially after retirement. Especially when you think you already know the system. And that brings us to the trap almost nobody talks about. The trap that catches responsible people. The trap that catches experienced people. The trap that catches people who believe they have seen it all. Millions of firearm owners born in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s assume permit renewal works exactly the way it worked the year before. Many never think to verify. Many never think to double check. Many never realize something changed until they are already dealing with the consequences. This is the renewal assumption trap, and I am about to expose it. The biggest renewal mistake is not what you do, it is what you assume. Because assumptions feel comfortable, assumptions feel familiar, and assumptions are exactly what catch responsible people off guard. Richard Miller is not reckless. He is not careless. He is not someone who ignores rules. The problem is that Richard believed the process he understood last year was the same process waiting for him this year. And millions of permit holders across America make that exact same assumption. Now, before we go any further, I need you to do something. If you believe responsible firearm owners deserve clear information instead of confusion, hit the like button right now. Not because it helps me, because it helps this conversation reach people who may not realize something has changed. A single click could put this information in front of someone who needs it before they submit paperwork, miss a requirement, or discover a problem after the fact. And while you're here, subscribe, because this channel tracks regulatory changes, retirement-related legal updates, and issues that affect older Americans before they become expensive mistakes. The goal is simple: help you stay informed, help you stay prepared, and help you avoid surprises. Now let me be clear about something. This is educational content only. Firearm laws, permit requirements, and renewal procedures vary by state and can change over time. Always verify current requirements with your state licensing authority and consult qualified legal professionals when necessary. Never rely on old information when current information is available. That one habit alone can save you a tremendous amount of frustration. By the end of this video, you will understand why some July procedures are creating confusion among permit holders. You will discover the most common renewal assumptions senior firearm owners make. And most importantly, you will learn practical steps you can use to verify renewal requirements before submitting paperwork. Because the difference between a smooth renewal and a frustrating delay is often much smaller than people think. And what comes next may surprise you. Let's get into it. Let's start with the assumption that causes most of the trouble. It sounds harmless. In fact, it sounds completely reasonable. If my permit was approved before, renewal should be automatic and unchanged. Most people never question that belief. Why would they? If you renewed successfully 2 years ago and then again last year, your brain naturally expects the process to remain the same. That is how human beings operate. We rely on experience. We rely on routine. We rely on what worked before. The problem is that permit systems do not always move at the same speed as your expectations. Look at the dirty legal trick they use. Not a trick in the dishonest sense, a procedural trick, an administrative reality. Requirements can change without a major headline. Documentation standards can change. Verification procedures can change. Processing systems can change. Record-keeping requirements can change. And sometimes those changes happen without most permit holders ever hearing about them. After reviewing permit administration practices across multiple states and examining how renewal procedures evolve over time, one pattern appears repeatedly. Most problems occur when people rely on old information. Now let me do the math live so it lands. James Carter, 69 years old, Texas. Clean record, responsible permit holder. Renewal notice arrives. James completes the application and submits it. Simple enough, or so he thinks. A few weeks later, the application comes back. Not denied, not rejected permanently, returned. A supporting document is missing. Now James has to gather additional paperwork, resubmit the package, wait for processing all over again, and because time has passed, other issues begin to appear. Training documentation may need to be re-verified. Deadlines become tighter. Additional administrative fees may apply depending on local procedures. Look at the dirty math here. One missing document, one returned application, one additional waiting period, several weeks of delay, hours of phone calls, extra paperwork, unnecessary stress. The financial impact may not be huge, but the inconvenience can be enormous, especially if you discover the issue late in the process. This should make you absolutely furious, because the frustrating part is that many of these situations could have been avoided with a simple verification call before filing. One phone call, 5 minutes. That is all it sometimes takes. But the paperwork itself is not the real story. The real story is why these changes create so much confusion in the first place. And that is where things get interesting. Oh, friends, it gets so much worse. So who designed this? Who created a system where responsible citizens can become confused simply because procedures evolve over time? The answer may surprise you. There is no single villain, no secret committee, no single agency. The real villain is complexity. And administrative change. Permit systems evolve, technology changes, databases are upgraded, record-keeping systems improve, legislatures pass updates, courts issue rulings, administrative departments revise procedures. Every one of those changes may seem small on its own, but together they create a moving target, and different agencies often update information at different speeds. That is where confusion begins. The problem is not that rules sometimes change. The problem is how many responsible citizens never hear about those changes until they are already affected. This should make you absolutely furious, because responsible people are doing their best to comply. Yet many are forced to learn about procedural changes after problems appear. 3 states, 3 completely different realities. Arizona, generally streamlined, strong online resources, clear renewal information, digital access makes verification easier for many applicants. Now look at Texas. Requirements may be straightforward, but local experiences can differ depending on county resources and processing workloads. The expectations may feel different even under the same state framework. Then there is Florida. Rapid population growth, heavy administrative demand, large volumes of applications, more pressure on processing systems. 3 states, 3 completely different realities. Same goal, different experiences, different timelines, different administrative environments. Now tell me in the comments, what state are you watching from? And when was the last time you personally checked your permit renewal requirements? I read every comment. Your experience may help somebody else avoid a mistake. And while you are thinking about that, share this video with a friend or family member who may have a permit renewal coming up this year. Not tomorrow, today. One conversation today could prevent weeks of frustration later. Now let's talk about solutions. Because awareness without action does not help anyone. Save this video now so you can review the checklist before your next renewal. Seriously, save it. Future you will thank present you. Now let's get to the strategy, the actual playbook. Strategy number 1, the 90-day verification rule. 90 days before your renewal date, begin checking requirements. Visit official state resources. Review current instructions. Confirm documentation requirements. Verify timelines. Do not assume, verify. The people who avoid problems are usually the people who check first. Strategy number 2, the documentation folder system. Create one location for everything: permit copies, training certificates, identification documents, renewal notices, correspondence. Keep it updated throughout the year, not the week before renewal, throughout the year. That way you are never searching for paperwork under pressure. Strategy number 3. The direct confirmation method. This may be the most powerful strategy of all. Call the issuing authority before filing. Ask questions. Verify documentation requirements. Confirm fees. Confirm expected processing timelines. Do not rely entirely on secondhand information. Go directly to the source. A 5-minute conversation can prevent weeks of delay. Think of permit renewal like preparing for a flight. The airport may look exactly the same as it did last year. The terminal may be identical. The parking lot may be identical, but security procedures can change overnight. If you arrive expecting last year's process, you may experience delays you never anticipated. Permit renewal works the same way. The process often appears familiar, but details matter, small details, and small details create big differences. The people who experience the fewest problems are not necessarily the smartest. They are simply the people who verify before they act. Preparation beats assumption every single time. Let me show you 2 versions of the exact same situation. Same man, same state, same permit, same renewal deadline. Only one difference: preparation. Richard Miller is 72 years old, Sun City, Arizona, clean record, responsible permit holder. Renewal due in 90 days. Let's start with Richard Type A, the version most people never expect to become. Type A assumes everything is the same. He pulls out last year's checklist, uses the same process, submits the same paperwork, follows the same routine. Because it worked before, why wouldn't it work again? Weeks pass. Then a notice arrives. Additional documentation is required. The application cannot move forward until the information is provided. Now Richard has to gather paperwork, make calls, review instructions, submit additional documents, wait again. And during that waiting period, uncertainty begins creeping in. Questions start appearing. Did I miss something else? Will there be another delay? How much longer is this going to take? The process becomes frustrating, not because Richard did something irresponsible, but because he relied on assumptions. Now let's look at Richard Type B, the prepared approach. Same permit, same renewal date, same state. 90 days before renewal, Richard decides to verify everything. He visits official state resources, reviews current instructions, checks documentation requirements, makes a quick phone call to confirm expectations. 5 minutes, that is all. The representative confirms exactly what is needed. Richard updates his paperwork, verifies every document, submits a complete package. No surprises, no follow-up requests, no unnecessary delays, no guessing, just preparation. And that preparation creates a completely different experience. Notice something important. Neither version of Richard changed the law. Neither version received special treatment. Neither version had inside information. One simply verified, the other assumed. That was the entire difference. Same permit, same state, same renewal date, different preparation, different experience. Same permit, same renewal, different preparation. That is the entire game. Now we get to the most important part of this entire video: action. Because information without action changes nothing. Awareness without action solves nothing. So here's what you are going to do tonight. Not next month, not after your next renewal notice arrives, not when you finally get around to it. Tonight. Step 1, find your permit expiration date. Right now, not what you think it is, not what you remember it being. Find the actual date, write it down, put it somewhere you can easily see it, because you cannot prepare for a deadline you have not identified. Step 2, visit your state's official licensing website. Go directly to the source, not a forum, not social media, not a comment section, the official source. See what information is currently available. Look for updates. Look for notices. Look for changes. Step 3, review current renewal requirements. Carefully, line by line. Do not assume anything is unchanged. Verify documentation requirements. Verify timelines. Verify procedures. The few minutes you spend checking today may save you weeks of frustration later. Step 4, create a dedicated renewal folder. Physical, digital, or both. Store permit copies, training records, identification documents, renewal notices, correspondence, everything in one place. Future you will appreciate it. And one final thing, do not wait until the final weeks before expiration. That is when stress appears. That is when delays become expensive. That is when small problems suddenly feel much bigger. The earlier you prepare, the more options you have. If you know another senior firearm owner who renews permits regularly, send them this information. Not tomorrow, today. A simple conversation now may prevent a complicated situation later. Preparation is always easier than correction. Always. As we wrap up today, I want you to remember one thing. Most permit problems do not begin with bad intentions. Most do not begin with recklessness. Most begin with assumptions. People assume the process has not changed. People assume last year's information is still accurate. People assume they have plenty of time. And sometimes those assumptions create problems that could have been avoided. You can be surprised by changes, or you can prepare for them. The choice is yours. The good news is that preparation is not complicated. A few minutes of verification, a few minutes of organization, a few minutes of planning, that is often all it takes. Now, before you leave, smash that like button one more time on your way out. It helps more responsible firearm owners find information that could save them time, frustration, and unnecessary headaches. And make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because this channel follows important updates affecting responsible firearm ownership, retirement life, regulatory changes, and the issues that older Americans need to know before they become problems. You do not want to miss what is coming next. In our next video, we will examine the paperwork mistake that causes more renewal delays than almost any other issue. Until then, stay proactive, stay informed, stay prepared, and I will see you in the next one.